Black Ops.
Let's get it.
Episode 0, episode negative.
So I've had a couple of things top of mind for me that I've wanted to ask you about, but I think the context will be helpful here as far as your experience in the game, specifically when it comes to like teams and creative agencies, right? So drop a little bar about kind of like how you've played in that space historically.
Yeah, so I've had agencies, man, since I was probably different variations of things, right? Since I was probably 25 years old. I've always been in the space. I've had every kind of agency except for an affiliate marketing agency. I've consulted with a bunch of different agencies as well. I've built multiple teams for myself, for other people. I had an agency that was an 8-figure agency, and I broke it back down into productized service agencies instead, meaning instead of doing everything in-house, basically as one thing, we would have, hey, this one does social media. This one does ads and funnels. This one does e-commerce. This one does just a product and a service and a system, right? 507120. 507120. Right. And I still have it. I still think it's a great model. The model that I have now is basically, it's kind of like a productized, but also we have what I call kind of like special teams. When it's the right thing or the right company, we'll inject ourselves into the business and either do some sort of profit share or potentially help scale it for equity or to help sell the business.
I love it. Cool. I want to dive into those special teams that you talk about, because obviously that's something that's a little bit outside of like the normal operations that you are solving for and managing when it comes to fulfillment for these agencies, whatever their service offering is. At what point does someone start considering like, hey, this is something I want to be intentional about building out for those kind of like unicorn opportunities where there's a perfect matchup and a really good opportunity with like a high leverage point?
When you decide you want to add that as a business model. So for me, a lot of the idea that I had from the beginning was, we're making a lot of money for these people, and it's hard to start being like, pay more, right? And so I really realized they also aren't going to leave at one point, or if you charge too much, sometimes they leave. But nonetheless, started selling and getting into more of that kind of business model. And I realized, man, like, Gary Vaynerchuk did a thing one day, and that's really what got me. I don't remember when he said it, but he was like, the agency, he has VaynerMedia, it's enormous. He's got a Sasha Group, a bunch of my agencies as well. And he was like, the agency for me is getting data, growing businesses, and getting the best team members. So when I do something, I have the best people here. And so I was like, man, that makes sense. And, you see some people now, they call it a growth partner model or whatever the case. You can call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it's a different business model. So you have to, and it's select, right? I don't enjoy, you can't do it with everyone because you're putting a lot of time, effort, and energy and team members in it, right? So it's a little bit different. You're almost partners with these people, right? And so you've got to make that decision. How do I want to make my money? And so for me, in some instances, it was like, all right, we're going to have this work this way. But then for things that just, it's congruent with the relationship with the person, it's congruent with the team, we know we can scale it, I offer that opportunity if it's a good fit.
There's so many factors that go into when the deal is a good one, right? I'm curious to know operationally, right? Once you kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the business and behind the curtain, what are some of your big red flags that tell you, hey, I don't care how much money this business is doing, just because of what's going on operationally, I don't want to part in this. This isn't something I'm looking to touch.
Honestly, it's ethics, right? Like I had an opportunity to get involved in a deal right now that was really big, and nobody knew how they served the customer. They just knew how much money they were making from them. And that was a huge red flag to me. So I just said, no, you can't explain to me after selling so many of these things how this works for the person, how this person has success. You're not interested in that. You're interested in you. And so I knew that would be trouble later on, right? And so I don't do anything that I can't present in my kid's school, and I don't do anything that makes me, like, if I don't want you at my house because I think you're weird or shady, those are my two rules. They're simple as that. You know what I mean? And sometimes, that person can trick you, but with the product or whatever, like if it's kind of slimy or whatever the case. A lot of times, the the big thing is really also the person, right? If it's all just about money, and if you're not going to treat the team members right, if the goal is, if you want to make 100 million, but I think that we can probably sell this at 15 million realistically, it's not a fit, because once we get to 15, you're gonna be like, we got to hit 100. We had that deal too. We took a company to 40 million, 40, not 4. And I told the guy, I was like, it's time to sell. He was like, no, we can hit 100. I was like, we can't hit 50. Just the way the structure, the SKUs, the scale, it didn't make logical sense, and they went back down. They didn't want to work together anymore on it, and they went down to $1 million a month, and then they went down to 200,000 a month, and that's because I knew you could sometimes, like, not everything is meant just because you see it on TV or Insta or whatever to be $100 million thing, and that's also okay. I'd rather hit a bunch of good base hits than all home runs.
Yeah, I can. I'm going back to the point that you made about some of these companies just not knowing, like, to the extent or the ways in which they serve their customers, or if they do at all, right? And I'm imagining a scenario where they just don't care, right? That's not where their head is at. But I can also imagine a scenario where they just don't really even know what measuring that looks like, or they don't have a process in place to measure that. And to expand that out a little bit, right? Like, what are some of the biggest things that companies that you work with operationally aren't measuring that you help them kind of start measuring, and that make a huge difference in how they go about doing business?
It depends on the industry. A lot of times it's always lifetime value, recurring tracking, revenue per employee. Everyone just wants more, and more. If you're venture backed or you have the money to lose, that's dope. But let's just say on a consulting company or some sort of personal brand thing, right? You have digital coaching ascended into consult events, mastermind, whatever, and you're doing 3 million. You want to do 10, and you're not going to sell that company probably, right? So you get the 10, but you get the 10 and it's at a 15, 20% margin instead of 5 at a 35 or 40. Who made more money? The 5, right? But you just want to get the 10. And so that's a very illogical thing. And some people don't look at what they want to make, what the team needs. Like, they just look at, like, more a lot of times. And that's a huge thing. A lot of people think it's all marketing. And marketing, I'm a marketer, right? So, like, I used to think that too, but the more I get into business, and it's everything. It's all one congruent thing: marketing, sales, operations, team, logistics, onboarding, process, customer support. And it's not just one thing. But a lot of people mostly just put their efforts into one thing, because you don't see offers or consulting or coaching and stuff on operations. It's boring. It's not hot. I made an email offer one time and it bombed because it's the thing you need. It's not what you want to hear, right? Like, it's like, if you don't read magazines, little kids don't read magazines about how to court a girl and treat a woman right. They watch Playboy. They're like, oh, that's the thing. Blah, blah, blah. I just want the thing. It's the same thing. Like, you want the dopamine, right? So then we put out an offer on influencers or how to scale ads. Boom. But that's cool. Like, okay, and how much are you spending? Like, what's the lifetime value? How are you going to, once you spend all that, how do you think you're going to make more money? Email and SMS and figuring out lifetime value. But you don't want to hear that until you're like in a point of, like, I need that. But it's a bad front end offer, right? So operations is a bad front end offer. Sales is a good front end offer because it's tied to money, but it really, sales is also operations. It's people, it's culture, right? And so those kinds of things you never care about until you're, like, deep in the mix. But it's hard for people, and I think that's the number one mistake that I see people make. They just like, oh yeah, I just want to get my thing bigger. Well, okay, like, does your thing suck? Is it even good? Is it a Me Too product? Who do you work with? I talk to so many people. I'm like, who's your avatar? I just talked to somebody and they were like, guys, bro. Like, oh yeah, that's it. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, men. I'm like, that's cool, man. So we're gonna go target. You're a super aggressive alpha kind of guy. Let's go target Christian construction workers. See how that works out. But it's men, right? Like, oh, it's not what I mean. Like, So is it blue collar? Is it home service? Is it real estate guys? Is it real estate investors or agents? It's everybody. Oh, so it's doctors? Well, not them. All right, so chiropractors? Well, no. Okay, so roofers? Nah. So who? But they're men. You don't even know. You don't even know. A lot of times, people get into business and then they forget that it's their business. They just think about the money, but they stop thinking about the person and the problem and the process.
So for that person that thinks that all they need to do is more marketing, right, to grow the business, you've seen instances and come in where what they really need is to dial in their ops, right, get their operations right so that they can grow in whatever way they want, right? What are some of like the wake up calls that like red flag signs that they can see that like, oh, I actually need to shift my attention over to a different part of the business?
Their team, how their team is, what their team is saying, they're probably ignoring is one. What their customer surveying, like what's going on there, knowing the avatar, right? When you come in and want more help on marketing and you don't know who you're talking to, that's probably an operation problem. Why? Because you don't understand who's even coming in, right? That sure, marketing can drive people. That's called bad leads, right? Why do we have bad leads? Because you don't know who you're talking to and you don't know what flow they're going to and how to give them success. Now that's not marketing anymore. That's operations, right? That's the onboarding to the fulfillment, to the delivery, to the success, to the ascension. Do you know that? Yeah, man, it works. At what numbers? I got to get those to you. Why do you have to get those to me? That's your business. Why don't you know them? We're on a call about this. That's operations. You just want to blind that and band-aid that real quick and slap some marketing on it and be like, yo, the more the better. But if you keep doing that, this is what's going to happen. Yo, the leads suck. Sales team isn't having good conversation. Also, when your sales team sucks, that's operations. Why? Because they probably weren't trained properly. How many people you know? Like, yeah, I need more salespeople. They talk to someone who has sales experience. They don't talk to somebody about what they do, how they work, how they help, what their process is, sales, all that. They just put a body in it, right? It's just band-aiding the whole thing.
So for that person, that founder, right, that has a creative agency, maybe low six figures, maybe even starting to kiss seven, right? You mentioned knowing your numbers, right? And I think that there's a big dream that everyone wants to live where they don't need to know their numbers because someone knows the numbers and, the thing is kind of doing, running itself. Can you speak a little bit to like, at what point, if any, the founder should be in a place where maybe that isn't their thing, right? Or is that always them?
I mean, I think it should always be something that you're cognizant of in a serious way, not a high-level overview, unless you have a controller or a real CFO and real deep accounting. Like you should know. You should know who. If, like I said, if you might not have one of these people at that point. So okay, what's the lifetime value of the customer that you have? How long do they stick? What's the average price point? How much does it cost you to acquire that? What does a pod or a team or whatever you have cost to service or fulfill certain things? Could you add more? Are you adding marketing budget to this? Like like, okay, if I lose 2 clients, I'm going to have to gain 3. If I gain 3 clients, I'm going to have to invest in this guy and this girl or whatever the case. Those are all numbers that you need to know. But no one thinks about that, right? They're all like, I need to hit 200 because I'm at 100. Okay, like, well, what if we hit 200 and you might lose money, right? Like hitting numbers is great, but it's more than just hitting numbers, right? It's hitting outcomes.
Yeah, because to your point, you can even get to a higher revenue point and actually be walking with less as a company, as an individual, whatever that is, and you're on the other side of that. Like you've already seen that movie.
Yeah, I can go. Let's say I want to hit $100,000 on my leads agency, and right now we're doing funnels and ads for a certain kind of client, but I want to increase it, so I decrease pricing and I get more bodies in. Okay, but I hire Americans. They can't take that much. They cost too much to deliver that kind of product for that little pricing, and so you're having to take more people on. They're overwhelmed. Now you have to hire more, and so you're getting more money, but with the expenses of that, now you're breaking even, and you don't even have money for marketing now, but you're making the gross revenue. So are you good? Is that the goal? Like, what's the goal? You know, like a lot of people don't have true outcomes of what they want to achieve. They just have a like, I want more, but why? And I don't mean why like esoterically and stuff like that. Like, what do you want to make at the end of the year, or if it's a more lifestyle operation? What does the business need to make if you want to sell it, or what is the real tangible thing? Like, oh, we got to grow by 30%. Like that is arbitrary as shit. Why? Like, there's no reason. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know, let's get a plan to grow by 10% month over month. And they're disgusted. And I'm like, that's 120% a year. You don't want to grow by 120% a year? Actually, I don't think you can. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's a lot, man. I'm like, 10% a month, it's not a lot, right? Yeah, it is, because it compounds if you follow everything, because it can go up and down, you know? A lot of people come to me and they're like, man, like we had a terrible month. I'm like, how was your quarter? Like, I don't know. Like, okay, how was last quarter? I got to look. Stop looking at the month. You're a drug addict. You're like, like, look at the quarter. What was last quarter comparatively? Like, where did you spend more on ads? Did you spend less on ads? Like, what's changing in the market? Like, let's look at these things instead of just like blaming. You know, you're barely working, or you're working on your other thing because you're an entrepreneur, so you got 10 things that you're doing, and you're not doing the foundational things. It's like, hey, let's just grow by doing this. You know, I get backlash all the time from consulting people when I'm like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna start with this only thing per quarter. Like, well, why? I'm like, because you don't have the budget to do all the things you said. None of them are actually happening right now, and we've got to get you dialed in on one thing, the lever that's going to push what you're doing right now a little more. That's it. We're not going to, you know, but what they want to do is like, yo, let's do this other thing. That's actually another thing, right? Like, hey, let's get more clients for our agency. Okay, cool. All right, let's build this lead magnet, get more leads, and then maybe sell like an event or coaching. I'm like, okay, well, that's not, and some of them will become clients. Like, there's probably an easier way to do that then, right? Now you're doing something else, and you're getting people involved into something that's completely new. You're almost starting everything is a new business plan out in my almost like a new business, right? You're doing well on ads for Facebook. You want to start ads on YouTube. Okay, that's a different funnel, different system, different game. Are you allocating the budget? Are you going to give it enough time? Well, I don't know. Like, let's start to know those things.
I think a lot of people, I'm imagining someone listening to this and just think, you know, being in that mode of just like hawking hot dogs, right? Like they're just trying to get it. And they never take or feel like they have the space to take a step back and look at things from a more holistic, interconnected way. What is it that uniquely equips you, or what perspective is it that you have that allows you to look at things in that way in the businesses that you work with?
I've done what they've done and I've lost it. And I'm like, yeah, this is just going nowhere. You know, take a step back. You know, you're working to break something. And a lot of times too, you know, unfortunately in this particular kind of industry or sector that we're in, you just follow someone else's lead. You follow someone else's lead magnet or offer or consulting or funnel or jealousy of like them doing a thing that's making them more money. So you just push for that. You don't have a plan. You stop losing. You get to some place that like you just forget your thing and you just keep going. But you kind of forget. You know, I've talked to a lot of people that they don't know. I'm like, well, why do you want to do that? I'm like, oh, it's what I was doing. And I've done that. But then I, you know, being self-aware as a CEO, entrepreneur, founder is one of the most important things on the planet. And a lot of people are not actively self-aware, right? Like the reason that it's hard for you to shit on me is because I M myself. I shit on myself before you shit on me. So when you do, I'm like, I'm actively working on what you're saying. I'm not going to take it offensively because I know that it is a fact. It's a truth, right? And so, but you're not going to help me. I got to help myself, right? And so a lot of times employees, team members, they're not going to tell you. They're afraid, right? And sometimes people use that as leverage to no one tells me what to do. I don't mind if you tell me what to do because I'm trying to build a championship. And sometimes Steph doesn't take the shot. Sometimes Kobe doesn't take the shot. What's best for the team is best for the goal. It's best for the victory. It's not what's best for you all the time.
Through our conversations, you have expressed how intentional you are about building culture when it comes to teams, and how you've seen the massive difference that makes in performance and what's possible. What are some of the biggest things that influence the culture in a company? And if there is a negative, a toxic, just otherwise unconstructive culture somewhere, can it be fixed, or do you need to clean house?
It can totally be fixed if you get rid of the cancer. There's usually one or two people that are causing that, right? And it's also sometimes usually a lack of leadership, right? A lot of times lack of leadership looks like and sounds like ego, or it looks like confusion, or not involving the team members and not having a goal for everybody. You know, like I remember one time I was on a plane with a bunch of team members, and I texted everybody on like a group chat. I was like, hey, sorry, individually actually. I was like, hey, write out what you want in the next year and what you want in the next 5, where you want to be here, what it's going to take, like what we're doing wrong. Because you're working with people that are helping you grow, but at one point you're either a boss or you're a leader. And a boss is just like, I get a check for doing a thing and I click a button. A leader is like, this guy's going to help shape and mold the future of like what I want to achieve myself. So we are now together in a conversation of growing each other, right? And you've seen me, like I physically do that. Like I don't go like, yo, if you do this, like we'll get bags. Like, well, what do you mean we? Like, what's that? Like, you don't know what I want. Like, so some people, I've talked to some people that they don't want more money, they want more time. And some people want more money. And some people just want more in general. Those people have to go because like they're also not giving a shit. You know, I always say like, you're responsible for my money and I'm responsible for yours. So if I do something that isn't great, it's going to affect your check or your potential to grow. Same here, right? And so we've got to be really congruent. A good culture is communication, congruency, connection, and truth. You know, like being open and honest, having real conversations, you can being genuine. You can smell that shit.
As a leader, at what point does a mistake made by a team member warrant a reevaluation of their place on the team?
It depends what the mistake is, right? It depends what the mistake is, and you know, it depends how severe the mistake was and how intentional it was, or if it was malevolent or vindictive or against the team or against the person, why it was done, you know. Yeah, so it's there's variables, right? And that's the thing about culture. Like, if you care about the culture, you have to. It's not about HR. It's about like love. It's about connection and congruent conversations. So like, yeah, what's going on here, man? Like, you don't like this, you don't like that. Like, why'd you do that? You're not paying attention to this. Like, they need to speak to you about that. Blah blah blah. You know, but bringing it in, but not bringing it in like, hey, man, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Where do you need help? You know, like I was just talking here next door to one of our brands, and I was like, where do you need more support? Like you're drowning, I can see it, but you're not going to talk out loud about it. So like, let's just discuss like what needs to happen for you to do less, but us achieve more. And it's more people, right? People are going to make you all the money, not you. You can be the visionary, you can be a great guy, but at the end of the day, for scale, unless it's like just some solopreneur kind of vibe, it's cool. But overall, like if you want to do something bigger, it's people that are going to make the thing happen, right? A good product, a good process for success, and good people.
For somebody, because I have this scenario in my mind that I can see where, to your point earlier, like the operational efficiencies are not there, right? Overall, business is incredibly inefficient operationally. And so there isn't the margin, there isn't the opportunity to get A players, right, so to speak. I'm curious to know if you are of the mindset that, I want to find A players and make a home for them, or, I can take in a B player, a C player, and we're going to have the kind of culture that will make them an A player. Where do you land there?
It's both. I used to farm and build it from the ground up. And now I hunt and I go and find and kill and bring the carcass in here. You know, sometimes you need more leadership, and sometimes people want to raise up as leaders. And one of the things I say is like, listen, this is what I want and I expect from you. This is what you expect from yourself, and this is where you want to go. So here's how it's going to go. This is what's needed. You can start taking that ball, or you're going to meet your boss. Because we need this person. I'd like it to be you. But if you're not going to do it, I'm going to introduce you to your boss. And I say boss, not leader, because I'm not going to introduce you to someone you're going to like. You know, I'm going to introduce you to someone who's going to tell you what to do because you seem to not be able to do it or tell people what to do or take this ball and run, you know? And usually when that happens, you can tell that person's already going down, because what that also means is like, I don't really want it. I want more, but I don't want to do more. I don't want to think more. I don't want to work harder.
So you'll typically see them kind of step back.
Yeah, they'll step up or they'll step out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on them. I didn't do nothing but put a mirror there.
Yeah.
I made them self-aware. They don't like it, and so that's when you'll have the shit talking like, yo, like, I got screwed, man. Like, no, I told you exactly what to do. You said exactly you wanted this. This is what was required. You stopped, like, right here. We still need this. This is what that delta of money you want, that's right there. You're not doing it. So that delta plus what I'm paying you is going to go to someone else to teach you what you need to do better, because you're not doing it for anybody. You're not enhancing.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a bit about a situation where you saw an opportunity and you came in and the operations for whatever, whether it was team, whether it was systems, whether it was all of the above, they were too insurmountable and you were like, yo, we out. Like, this is not what we thought it was. Like, this is not fixable.
Yeah, I'm not going to name names or anything, but we came into a business that was phenomenal and like on paper. And then, you know, we came in and the goal was to come in and do some shedding of people and building some better operations and stuff. But the founder was like, yeah, get it done. But then always fighting, like, yeah, but. And I was like, this is why. And then I started interviewing the team and stuff. And I found out like that's the MO. Like, the person was the bottleneck, right? He wanted everything his way, but he didn't know what he wanted. And then when you started getting people for leadership or support, he veto it, you know? And so I was like, listen, at the end of the day, this is just your ego keeping you here, but I don't have time for that, you know? We don't have time to waste, because it's not just me coming in, it's a whole thing coming in, and we don't have time for that. Like, this isn't going to be worth our time to continue to work on, right? You can't make calls, you can't make meetings, you don't let things happen. You're vetoing other things. You're questioning things week by week instead of like plan by plan. And that's just not how this is going to work. I mean, whatever you want to do, there's a time horizon for things. If you can expect a longer time horizon and to move into if a longer time horizon for a goal consistently applied is going to hit because of the compound. That's just facts, right? You're not going to get to Miami, no matter how you slice it, in less than an hour and a half. You can't get to Miami in 17 minutes. It's stupid, right? So you can't lose 33 pounds in 6 weeks. You can't. So why do you think you can scale or do more in that time frame without more? And you're going to have to get a plane, buy a ticket, do that, lose weight, like exercise, diet, have a regimen. You just want to slap more ads into things, or do more stuff and be like, all right, where is it? Never met a guy, never met a team, never met a way that could work. Why? Because it's illogical. But you don't think it's not illogical to go to college and then suffer for a job. It's not illogical to lose 50 pounds in 7 months. That's logical to you, right? It's not illogical to get to Miami in 3 hours driving, but another 100K or another 50K in a month because you snapped your fingers and wanted it and hired someone is illogical. That's funny. Like, say that again.
Let's talk about that, because you mentioned kind of like a growth partner model, right? Especially in the agency space. And there's a lot more of that entering into the marketplace. For someone that's like on the fence, or they're seeing that and they have that kind of mindset where they want to be able to push the button, pay the money, and unlock this hidden 50K, 100K, whatever that is, monthly cash collected, right? Can you kind of level set the expectation there?
Well, the reality is, right, a growth partner or whatever, they're going to come in. They're coming in to solve problems, right? And sometimes an agency sells a solution. The solution to what you think you want is more. So, and we can do more here, there, and there. A growth partner is like, okay, so we're going to come and solve problems. Your CRM is trash. Your team is weak. Your page sucks. You're not spending enough. You're not giving enough time for data. You're not figuring out onboarding. You don't really have a tight system on who your avatar is and what other avatars you may have. You have no understanding of like what you're allocating monthly specifically on marketing. You don't know what's working on marketing and what's not. Those are problems, and they need to all be solved individually. And that's where that takes team members, and that's where a growth partner model can come in, because you're solving for sectors and sections and operational inefficiencies in ops, but sales inefficiencies in sales, onboarding inefficiencies on team, solution and result inefficiencies on your product or process, right? SKU inefficiencies on logistics and like maintaining cash flow. Like those are problems that you're not looking at, and a marketing agency is going to not do, because they're paid to run ads and maybe tweak your funnel, maybe slap some emails around and some text messages. What I said had nothing to do with that. It'll enhance that greatly, but that actually has to be taken into account in consideration prior to having a good, if I just put more marketing dollars on all those things, it will fail, because your CRM is bad. Thus your lead flow will be poor and mismanaged. Thus you'll have bad sales guys, or you might have bad sales guys. Then you don't know, once the sale's done, like what's the follow-up? Is it really sold, or did you send an agreement? Like what's the truth? Like what are you working on there? Then what's the onboarding look like? How fast do you try to get someone success? What's the pillars of how you sell stuff? Like what actually do you sell? Tell me. Well, we got 3 programs. Tell me the difference between each one. They're all, bro, it's totally different.
Yeah.
I'll wait. I'll sit here.
Yeah.
You know, I did a call recently with a client who like just he wouldn't tell us like what he sells, because it's in personal development. And I was like, let's do this. It took an hour and a half. I was like, let's pretend I'm a guy. Sell me. And we did. And he kept going, you know, I was like, you have to sell tangible stuff. And I was like, what are you going to, you know, this is my problem. How can you help me? Well, I need to know, like, how do you feel about this? Like, bro, you're losing everybody. This is it. I applied because you said you had a solution. What's the solution? Mm-hmm. Don't talk to me about, like, you're not my therapist right now. I have 20 more minutes on this call, max, and I'm already kind of out. This is my problem. What do you sell to me? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Tell me something. Like, don't tell me, like, well, how do your clients feel about you? Like, I don't know. How do your clients feel about you, man? By the way, what do they sell? Like, what are you doing with their clients? Because you haven't said anything, you know? And after that, I was like, yeah, this page doesn't matter, because no matter what I write there, you can't sell shit. You've got to change the way you sell. So the page, the marketing, the ads, irrelevant to that, right? But you're just looking, well, I hired you guys for that. Like, you did, and we did our job. Oh, the leads suck. Nah, once they get on the phone with you, it sucks. Yeah. Because you don't even know what you sell, and you're not willing to do tangible conversations. Very different. A growth partner can unlock that. A marketing company isn't even allowed to, or they don't care, because they're like, we'll revolve the door and get another one in.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just like framing too. We talk a lot about this when it comes to like short form content agencies, just because I have a lot of experience and I work with a lot of people on that side, to where like at some point in their lifetime with a client, they want to start digging into more of the back end so that they can actually nurture this attention that they help the client get. But from the get-go, they were positioned as just like the video guys. And so they start asking like, yo, like, what is your click-through? Like, what does your ascension model look like? Like, can we see what your conversions are? And the person that they're working with is looking at them like, no, like, why would I tell you
How often do you do call to actions from all the content we make you?
Right.
You guys should do that. Not paid for that.
Right. Right.
How often do you retarget and run funnels? Well, we're not running funnels right now. Okay. So what is my content working for you then?
Right.
What when I make videos for you, what is that to you? You want views? You go to the gas station and like, yo, I got mad views. You don't have a views credit card. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't have an engagement credit card.
Yeah.
You don't go to your wife and be like, yo, I want that car. I'm like, let me see if I can get more followers, and if I can come and like see if they'll give it to me from followers. Yeah. They're not.
Follower FICO score.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I think about it like you could go, like you could have a hot dog or a taco vendor, or you could have like a master private chef, and the taco vendor is going to get you tacos. And if you're like, yo, I'm hungry for something different, they're going to look at you and be like, man, I can make you more tacos. Like I could, whatever.
I could put them in a bowl.
Right. Like we could, tweak it a little bit.
But you came here for tacos, all right?
Right. Master Chef is going to be able to say, you know what, like, what are you feeling right now? Like, how hungry, when's the last time you ate? Like, all right, how do you react to this flavor profile, right? Like, how do you like this? And kind of be able to
Well,
take a more diagnostic
a
approach.
master chef's gonna go, all right, so what's tonight about?
Mm,
Right? Are
mm,
you hosting people? Is it just for you and your girl? Is it dietary restrictions just for you to get
mm-hmm,
lean? Like, what are we looking at? What's the real outcome? They're
mm-hmm,
not feeding you. A taco guy's feeding you. I'm hungry, feed me. Job done.
mm,
That's ads and funnels, right? Like, yo, I need somebody to help me. Taco vendor. All right, we got tacos. But what you really meant is like, I want a master chef.
mm-hmm.
All right, well, what's what kind of what are you doing? Is it a master chef a week because you're throwing dinner parties, or is it a master chef every day because you're trying to get shredded, or is it the master chef because you're rich and like you just want to like change the way you eat and like stuff like that? Like
Yeah.
what's your outcome? Get fed. All right, there's tacos.
Mm-hmm.
Go eat. Right? It's the same thing.
So should most people be looking to, at some point, get to their master chef?
Most people should first, to a degree, but I mean most people should know if they need a master chef or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they can build an in-house kitchen if they know what they're cooking. But
Mm-hmm.
most people don't know that. They just want to get fed when they're starving.
Yeah. I love that you allude to that, though, because there's a quote slash idea that I think about often and keep top of mind, which is that, like, hypothetical, the train, like, if I have a product that I'm trying to ship from the east to the west coast, right, and there are no train tracks to get it there, so I build the train tracks, right? The notion that the tracks that I built are going to be more valuable for me and for the marketplace than my free movement of my product from the east to the west coast. Because if my product sells for $10 and yours sells for 10,000, and you need to get it from the east to the west coast, the tracks and the infrastructure that I built are something that you can leverage, and now I can capitalize on some of that value as well. And when we talk about working with agencies and working with growth partners, right? Something that is very common with agencies is, I'll come in, I'll hire you as an agency, and we'll work together for X amount of time until I figure out what it is that you do and how it is that you do it. And then we will do it in-house, right? Is that the goal? Is there ever a situation, or what is the situation where we should be looking to have more of a long-term relationship? Should I be looking to skip over working with you as an agency altogether? Where do you land there?
I think agencies are great. We even hire consultants of other agencies to try to beat our own controls and stuff. They have they have way more data than anybody else, right? Like, let's say you're killing it, but I could be killing it in your niche 10 different times. So I have more data than you. So even if just engaging for a little bit, you can hire agencies to consult.
Mm-hmm.
You can hire agencies to try to beat your controls. You don't have to hire them for everything. But again, it goes back to like, why are you hiring these people? And a lot of times people leave, like we had a client that we took from 400,000 to $1 million. They're like, oh, we're going to build our team in house. The second month they're like, but we'll probably come back. And we're like, you will come back because you don't know what we did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you think you've got the sauce. You had the sauce at 400. You didn't got the sauce at 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now we know what we're doing because we've done your brand 25 times.
Mm-hmm.
You've done your brand once and you maxed it at 4. We've done your brand and passed 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be back. The reason we took it on, we're like, oh yeah, it's light. We know what to do. Because we do the same thing over and over and over again, right? Like, we're bodybuilders. Like, we're just repetitive. We do a lot of the same thing. And so we have a lot of the data, right? And so it really just depends. A lot of that depends on the entrepreneur, CEO, and stuff like that. But it really goes back to why, I think hire an agency for quick growth, hire an agency for scale as well. If you want to have an internal team, that's fine. You can also have both. Like, some people work internally, some people don't. Some people have beautiful businesses where they work with agencies on multiple brands, and that is their almost team,
Mm-hmm.
But they look at it like that. So when something fails, let's say you hire, instead of an agency, you hire 5 people to support what the agency did. When stuff fails, what do? You fire them, you find another one. How much time, effort, and energy is that going to take you? You know, like who's leading that person? Is it you? No, it's the new guy that you just hired to get rid of us, but doesn't know how this business works. So that's going to take them time, effort, and energy to figure out. What if they don't get along with this guy? Now that person's boss. Not saying that it doesn't work. It certainly does. But have you thought that that might happen? No, you're just trying to get rid of the money you're spending, but you're allocating it elsewhere. Maybe a little bit more affordable because this might be a growth partnership where like we're getting paid a significant amount of money. And maybe you're right, but most likely you haven't thought through the scenarios and the consequences that are going to happen through just trying to put a body in that thing, because you're just putting an expensive body as a leader to hire other people, but that's going to slow you down months, right? They're not going to walk in and be like, got it, like scaled it. Usually it backtracks, right? Because it's a people thing now. It goes back into now you're internalizing a culture. Do the people that this person hired like you, or how you discuss and work with people and stuff like that? No, man, like we can't keep clients. We can't keep team members because they don't like the owner, or they might not like the person you hired. You know, I see it a lot. Like we work close to an office that their doors are revolving because the dude doesn't want to outsource anything, but he can't keep a client. He can't keep a team member if he pays him.
If he pays him,
you know.
funny, bro. Oh man. This is a position that I have seen and also just been in, right? Where agency starts to work with client and client doesn't have their ducks in a row. Couple of months go by, results aren't what they were supposed to be, and client feels slighted, client feels burned, right? And that's something that's a story that you hear a lot when it comes to agencies. Oh, I don't want to work with another marketing agency ever again. They burned me, right? Do you find that it's a lot of grimy agencies out here and like that's what it is? Or is it typically that there's some like misalignment in expectations and just like
it's
relationship there?
I think there's less. I think if you're working with an agency that's super cheap, you're working with an unskilled person that just wants to learn with your money, right? And you're being cheap. They need a hand. So it's an incongruent relationship from the jump. I think with other agencies, they have their best intentions at heart. You've given them very little data, very little assets, very little budget, very little information. It's probably not doing what you already wanted to do. So you're looking at them to change your life, and you on board, and then the expectations aren't set. Like I'll tell you, like, hey, you have nothing, brother. Appreciate you, but like, let's be real about this. It's going to take longer. Most people, to get that money, they'll be like, oh yeah, we can do it. And so that's kind of what makes them, I guess, like look grimy or slimy or whatever. But they're just being insecure about it because they think they're going to lose a client. I think it's going to gain a client if I tell them, like, bro, this is trash.
Yeah.
Like, respectfully, like that's why you're here, you know?
And that was going to be my next question is like, if from your perspective, the responsibility is on the agency or the brand owner, founder, CEO to be thinking from that place of, all right, do we have everything that we need for this to be successful?
I think it's both, but I think as an also entrepreneur, I own other companies and stuff like that as well. I think and we've hired agencies as well, right? Because we hired B Controls and stuff. I can tell you when like we don't give them enough, we just throw it at them as well, you know, because we don't have time and stuff. But that's a lack of efficiency on our end.
Do they typically tell you that? Like, will they typically come to you?
I know that because I'm both.
Right. I'm just curious to know if that's what you see typically.
When I hire an agency, it's because I don't want to hire more people to solve our own personal problems on our own other companies. A lot of times too, and like I'm band-aiding it, and I'm like, I just tell them, you talk to them, tell them this, and that's how we get a lot of clients sometimes too. And but I recognize it. You know, after the second call or third, I'm like, it's not you, it's us. And sometimes I'll pause and be like, we haven't given you everything. We can't just keep paying you to figure it out. So let us get back to it. But we let them down. They didn't let us down. And sometimes like the ads, because we also run things like, yo, you're not trying. You took us on, and we're just another body. That's the good thing about having an agency. You can tell, you know,
where you stand in the queue.
Yeah. So a lot of times I consult with companies because I do like CMO and CEO, like fucking fractional work and stuff like that. And I'll be like, I'll hire the people because they'll walk all over you. And I can tell if they're going to be good with us or not.
Yeah.
You know,
let's talk about the fractional working relationship. Because I've often found that when I or someone adjacent to me needs to come in as a fractional, especially like CMO kind of thing, it's because I've found that more often than not, it's because your team is not what they should be, as opposed to you don't have the people that you need. Have you seen the same, or what does that look like for you?
It's that, and also it's you're putting bodies in it, and so you need the ultimate body to be like, hey man, I need to work. They're hiring someone to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to work with you. Like, this guy's got to go. What's my level of autonomy of like hiring, firing, figuring all this out? Like, this is how this is going to go. Like, I make decisions. I run through you on it. That's how we talk. But a lot of times they put bodies in it and they're like, yeah, this person sucks. I'm like, you're paying him 30,000 a year. And you're asking him to do a $75,000 a year job. And they're just out of high school or college. Like,
What you thought?
what did, like, say that again? You know what I mean? It's like hiring a fat trainer. Like, dude, I don't know what's going on with, like, I can't like get in shape. Like, bro, you're paying this guy $200 a year to train you, and he's he's at McDonald's right now. Like, you're the idiot, bro. You're the dumbass.
Oh, that's good. But like, I can hear the person on the other side just like, well, like, how would I know? Like, I don't do the thing that I'm hiring.
Give a shit about yourself and your business and educate yourself more. Like, this is a long road. Like, read more. Dude, you know how many people just read like skim and like they don't do due diligence on competitors. They just watch other people. They don't do due diligence. They don't know what their product is, who else is competing with them, like what they're doing, what their price points are, like why they should do it, like what their other people that are competing against are paying their team members, like how much they're doing, why they're doing it. Like sometimes you just put bodies in it, and like, it's easy as an entrepreneur sometimes to let it go and be like, it's kind of moving, like I'm kind of good, and you stress out about a few things, but like, there should be more responsibility if you want an agency or whoever, a consultant or anybody, even an employee, to come into your organization. It's your responsibility to do the best you can to like make that work, because it's not theirs, it's yours.
Yeah.
Every problem that I have is a result of me. It's just the facts. Even if it's someone else's fault, I hired that someone else. It is my fault. I hold responsibility to that.
I want to peer into the future a little bit. This growth partner model is not new in practice, but I think it's more recently getting like a name, right? And people are starting to like take that approach as like beginners, right? Like beginner entrepreneurs, beginner agency owners. I know it's a long road to look down, right? But how do you see, or what thoughts might you have around what that evolution is going to look like as we move into this almost more like individualistic, I'm seeing a lot more kind of like one person businesses built off of personal brand, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think that kind of partnership looks like? One of the references that comes to mind is like, of course, like Mr. Beast and like Feastables and that kind of.
So Mr. Beast works with Night Media, and Night Media is partners with the guy. But they do, he makes content. They do everything else. Mm-hmm. He gets involved. He's very involved as well. He's very like, that's the kind of guy. Why is he so successful? The guy knows every single detail about his life and business, right? So that's something you don't. And I think on the creator side, there is going to be a lot of opportunity to build and scale brands. I've been doing that since 2016, like working with influencers back then before they were creators, building, scaling, and selling brands, and being like, you're the content, we're the logistics, operations, we're going to source products, we're even going to like formulate products, we're going to be the P&Ls, we're going to do the accounting, we're going to do everything. But we had the infrastructure to do that, a marketing or growth partner has to have the infrastructure
pre-existing,
right? And I think that you're going to see a lot of courses and dumb stuff about this, and everyone's going to want to do it now. It'll be the new SMMA. SMMA is dead, right? Like now, growth partner is the thing, or solution based, marketer, whatever you want to call the thing. Sure, and it might work, but it doesn't matter. You're going to pick the wrong people. You're just trying to solve for your money instead of like, what kind of a business do I want to grow? What kind of people do I want to work with? You know what I mean? It's if you really have that kind of model, you don't have 50 people. You have like a couple, because there's a lot of work, because you're basically saying we own companies, but there's a lot of different approaches that you'll be able to take with that. But It's not something that I worry about competing with people against because they're gonna suck at it. The guys that are good don't even advertise about it. Like they're known about it and they get it right. And I think content like this is what's gonna stand out to the right kind of person and build out opportunities, productize services, vertical integration. Like you're hiring a business team. You're not hiring a marketing company.
Ooh, man, I'm just genuinely so excited for this to get into people's hands. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think especially for like the younger and just like newer wave that's kind of like new in the game. To your point earlier, like it's a lot of just like, oh, I want to follow in your footsteps, and you're telling me that this is the new fill in the blank, and like I felt like I missed that boat, and like I'm not about to miss this boat. But that skill set and that discernment around what actually is an opportunity, right? Both because of the person that you're dealing with, because of your skill stack and your infrastructure and your team. And that's something I think a lot of people miss, to your point, is like they want to take advantage of the opportunity, but they don't spend any time building themselves and building their influence, their team, their infrastructures, their systems, understanding, so that when that opportunity arises, they are in a position to add value to it. They just want to get value from it. They're like, oh, you're popping, or you're about to be popping, right? Like, let me be the guy that catches you before you jump on the rocket. But they don't have those things in place, and they weren't taking the time to do that.
I think there's a huge difference, and I'll leave it at this. So we'll do another pod after next episode. But and this is for people to really pay attention to. There's a huge difference in finding an opportunity because you're opportunistic. That means there's a tattoo that I wanted to get, but it's way too long. But it's the equivalent of saying, when you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? You can find opportunities because you're opportunistic. But I want to find opportunities when they're optimized. It's very different. I want to optimize an opportunity, and that's scale. I don't want to find opportunities because I'm opportunistic. Those are problems. Drop the mic. Let's run.
That optimization piece also just speaks to your skill and your being developed enough to be able to refine in that way, right? Because any idiot can find an opportunity, like stumble on an opportunity, and just see it, right? But for you to be in a position where you can contribute to it and actually leave it better than it was when you found it, that takes a lot of your own development, skill-wise, personally, in all the ways that count. So I love that. Dang, you should get that tab though.
It's so long, but it's not. I don't look at that as an opportunity. I look at that as an asset. You look at that as an opportunity, and that's why that'll go away. And that's why mine will become an asset. You know,
because then you're just going to look for the next.
If you look at an opportunity that you can optimize because it has optimization opportunities too, like scale, you are building an asset. If you look for an opportunity because you need an opportunity, bro, you'll find that on the streets anywhere. But you're going to be in a corner every day just hustling for street stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that's the difference. It's being seasoned. You can't lift 315 pounds on bench until you know how to lift, until you have the size, until you have the growth. If not, you're just going to hurt yourself and you'll have to stay in there all day long. You know, everything's a process. Everything takes time. Just no one wants to give it that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that inspires somebody to just stay locked into the game. Like, just stay locked in and be more concerned with what you can give than what you can get.
Be more concerned with who you want to be, and you'll go where you want to go. And be less concerned of what you want to have, because you'll end up empty.